Annyeonghaseyo.
Wait, let's do that one.
Okay, wait. Annyeonghaseyo. We're your hosts of the pod. I'm Lois. And that's my laundry that's going to be good. Hopefully you don't hear it.
No, we're living in real life things. Doing real life things while we're recording. Boom, boom, boom.
Also feel a little rusty. When's the last time we filmed? It's been like a couple weeks. I feel a little, but we're good.
We do things in advance. So
we do things in advance, and then we catch up, and then we, Anyway, we're gonna do our snack spotlight first. What do we have with us today?
We have, cookies and cream flavor. If viewers that are watching on YouTube, we're trying to show you the packaging, but there's nothing really on.
I've had Yes before. It's kind of like a clustered little pastry-ish.
Yeah.
Like a choco pie, but
like square.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone else
but,
first.
Yeah. I've had the Ocean version, but I've never had the cookies and cream.
Yeah.
It's something fun.
Honestly, these episodes are like excuses for us to try snacks that we haven't tried in a long while, that we just want to learn from.
Do you want to open yours?
Yes. I'm going to do that.
I'll do ASMR of yours. I don't know if that's good. This is cookies and cream. Oh, yes. Cheers.
Alright, let's take one bite.
Silent bite. Makes no sound. Oh, it's really good.
We got the whole box.
It's not too sweet.
Us Korean, we love that.
Mm-hmm.
My gift to you.
I thought it would be. I thought it'd be way sweeter actually. So this is surprisingly not as sweet as I thought.
All right, want to talk about our drink?
Mm-hmm. So I found this at H Mart. I feel like people have seen this before. I think this is the Kimino. Hopefully, I'm saying that right. Kimino. There's different flavors, but I got us the main one. I think this is plum because there was a peach one and it looked too sweet. I've had peach drink before. So, let's try it.
Oh, I don't know if our viewers would know about that one.
The what?
The peach drink.
The peach drink?
Because it was a previous episode that we are redoing this episode.
No, the peach drink, oh, just kidding.
Spoiler, you guys. So actually, this episode we're filming right now is a retake.
No.
We actually filmed this.
Wasn't that for the BTS episode?
No.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
for this episode.
guys.
So
this is why we have each other. This is why we have each other.
Let's jump into it real quick. So this episode's topic is about my disabilities. And spoiler, we actually filmed this a couple weeks ago.
We had a technical difficulty, so we're refilming.
Yes. It was the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was near my birthday. And she also surprised me with cake and presents. So I think we were going to drop some little blooper videos from that episode.
Maybe.
This is a redo of that.
Yeah, but it's been a few weeks and I feel like it'll be a good refresher and it'll still feel like what we filmed before.
Exactly.
So I'm excited to film this and talk about this.
This is what is this, like movie magic, but for YouTube?
Yeah.
And on our Spotify.
Oh my god. Yeah. Okay. You open yours and I'll put my mic against it and do a little ASMR moment for your drink. Okay, open. Oh. Okay.
Woo!
Okay, done. I really don't make that much sense. Oh, that's interesting. You like it? Be honest.
It's healthy. Like I feel like I'm doing my body a service.
Oh yeah, it's very healthy-ish tasting. It kind of has like a vinegary taste. Interesting. There's no vinegar, but I think because it's like the plum, and you know how there's like the I don't even know what it's called, so never mind. But like the plum seasoning that we use, or like the plum vinegar.
Oh,
that, like we use.
food.
Yeah. Do like seasoning. I don't know. Reminds me of that.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's good for digestion. It feels like a pop.
Like a probiotics, like seltzer or whatever.
Anyways,
okay.
guys, we are back.
We are back, and we are filming episode 8. So today we're talking about disability. We don't have a fancy title yet. Maybe we will when we release this. But we thought that this would be a fun thing to talk about, and something that isn't talked about a lot, at least within our circle of friends, and at least just in our everyday conversations. It's not just something we lightly throw out there.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like we both have a lot to say on the topic because you have your lived experience, and I'm a special education teacher, so my work involves working with people with disabilities on the daily. So I just feel like we have very interesting perspectives that we bring to the table. So yeah, I did want to kind of highlight Irene's story though, and let her share kind of her story on her diagnosis and kind of what it was like living with a disability.
Yeah.
And kind of focus on your childhood, I guess, and start from there. And we can kind of go into adulthood.
Yeah.
But yeah, just for the people who don't know, for the people who are curious.
Yeah, and as I share, feel free to ask if anything comes up. I'm just gonna go at it.
Yeah.
Childhood was very interesting because like anyone with anything, like when you are living with something and then you're like, wait, what about everyone else? Because you quickly realize how much of I don't know if this is the right term, an eyesore you are in societal standards, because it's in school I was the only one with a disability, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm definitely different. That's great. And there was a lot of accommodations that I got, right? Because when I was a child, I went through a lot of my childhood was actually in surgery rooms because I had to do a lot of operations.
Could you actually share what you were born with? And yeah, if you could give context.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I was born with something called cerebral palsy, and that came from, I was a preemie baby, so I was actually 2 months early in being delivered. So I guess I just wanted to be out into the world, But through that, if you actually look at my legs, one leg is a little bit longer than the other leg, so it kind of creates a imbalance. But what I have specifically is it ties into my muscles, my body, my brain and my body kind of have a small disconnect because the body is not following what the mind is telling it to do. So when I walk, there's a little bit of a limp. I would like to call that a cool little, like a swagger walk. But yeah, but anyways, yeah, childhood, I had to have a lot of surgeries for that, just to get into a place where I could be mobile, because I had to be in a wheelchair a lot too. So my version of play when I was younger is I'm in a wheelchair and I'm watching people play, watching people run, and I was oh, one day, because I guess when you're younger during recess, you get to just go crazy with your friends, and I'm just in my chair, and I would play things like cards, because cards are a sedentary game, so I could just so there's a lot of people watching and stuff like that, and then a lot of accommodations from teachers being maybe that's how I was a teacher's pet for a little bit, because I always had to be around my teachers because I couldn't really do certain things. But as I evolved, I went from a wheelchair to braces, leg braces. And I remember when I was younger, I was so ashamed of those, because I think when you're a child, all you want to do is blend in. And guys, don't worry, I don't believe in blending in anymore. But when you're a child, all you want to do is just not stick out. And these leg braces were they're little plastic, I don't know how to explain it. They're morphed, or I got these molds of my that they turned into these plastic like little like things for my legs. So I'm basically how you would wear them is you would wear the leg braces, and then on top of that you would put your socks on and then your shoes. But imagine like first of all, there's not a lot of shoes that fit that comfortably, you know, because the leg braces are very like bulky, and like they're not very comfortable either. So I would get like blisters on my feet because I'm not walking normally, and so like it would rub against the plastic, and it was just like really painful. And on top of that, it's not cute, you know. So I had to wear those, and you know, it made me feel very robotic because it's very stiff. It's not like moldable to your feet. And I just remember like, dude, I just want to not have to wear these. Even if I walk horribly, I'd rather just walk with my regular shoes. But I guess it was that emotion plus like in childhood, like I got used to people staring. Like, a lot of the times, like I might not even know them, and like I feel like they get a free pass into looking into like, oh, like she's weird because she's definitely like she has something going on, you know. And I feel like for the longest time, it took me a long time to come to terms with the fact that like whether I like it or not, like people will have the liberty to judge me, like um, about that without like my permission, if that makes sense. And that was like really tough because like how I would equate that is um, other people who have other things in their lives, like some things, not all, but some things can be remain hidden, you know, and other things may not. But like some things, there are some things in life where whatever you're going through, you can hide it and you can reveal it, you know, at your discretion. But I feel like for mine, it's like it's out there for the world to see, and I felt that that was very unfair. Um, so I was very like hung up on that for a long time, and it actually took like it has to be over 20 plus years to like find peace with that. And it's a daily battle, but yeah, that was like really tough like when I was younger too. Um and yeah, I think just navigating that as a growing like individual, like going through like growth spurts and things like that, on top of like this physical limitation. And then I think what amplified it even more is like um, you know, a parent's love is very apparent, right? In that way, because like I think my parents they felt like some kind of guilt that like it was brought upon me, and so like all they ever wanted to do was fix it, find solutions. And I know it comes from a good place, but I think that instilled in me, okay, there's something wrong, and um, like I love my parents for this, but like um, when I was younger too, like you know, someone would always be watching my back to see how I'm walking. Like, so I feel like I would always be evaluated. Like I'm in like some kind of like room, and I'm like um this alien that's like being watched all the time to be corrected, and it's kind of like
would they like kind of outrightly correct you or kind of tell you that, oh, try to walk straighter, or like you're not doing this enough, or kind of
yeah, they'd be like, okay, let's do that again. Let's try to like think in your head like walk straight, and then like we'd be out in public, and sometimes it's like you know I don't want to be doing that, but like I'd be with friends, and like we depart, and then like you know parents like okay like let's like work on this, you know, and um like my dad is like a lovely like wonderful figure that like you know bared a lot of the physical um aspects of like that because he was very on top of it, you know. And my mom was more he was like the strict disciplinarian even in my physical like um condition on top of academics, but he was like that disciplinary. And then my mom was more of like the friend that was just trying to like help me emotionally regulate like those emotions that I was facing while going through everything. Um, but yeah, and so I think like that already made me feel like okay, like, when it comes from your parents, it's like more so like, okay, there's something wrong, I need to fix it. But like, I think it was hard because I think what I wanted was like, yeah, whether you walk like that or not, like, you're still you, whatever, you know. But I think from a Korean parent perspective, all they want to do is like what they think is best. So what they think is best is like telling you, because no friend, even if you're close, is gonna like tell you like as much as your parents would tell you. So I know it's coming from a tough love kind of place, but I think that was like emotionally a lot. And then like I always felt like I was behind because like my sister, she's came out quote unquote with no disability, and she was, you know, going about her life as a quote unquote normie. And I just felt like I had so many things against me, you know, like I had this disability, I'm going through growth spurts, you know, I'm being watched all the time. It's just like it plays on your psyche of like your self confidence. Yeah. So I think I had a lot of self confidence issues for a long time. But yeah,
I was gonna ask you about like as a kid because like I feel like there's two sides of the coin where people say like kids are so brutally honest and kids can be so mean, but also sometimes they're like, oh, kids like don't see certain things, like they just see people and they can be so kind. And so you kind of see like both sides sometimes, like in movies, like a kid who like will just go up to a kid with disability and just treat them like a normal kid, but also sometimes you see kids who are like brutally honest, you know what I mean? So I just wanted to know what your experience was like with peers growing up, especially when it was so apparent, like when you're in a wheelchair, when you had braces, it was so apparent.
Yeah.
Like what your experience was like with friends and peers and treatment by peers growing up, like whether you were bullied or whether you were not, like what that might have looked like.
I think it's been a mix of both. I've definitely had encounters where, you know, people, like in the movies and in just real life, people are mean. But I've also met some really kind-hearted people that are still my friends to this day, like that I met like from middle school. Shout out to those friends. You know. So I think I got exposure to like those two different types, and I think even with that contrast, like it helped heal me a little bit of like there's still good people in the world that because all I ever wanted was like I wanted people to see me for me and not the disability first, and then you know do what they will instead of like making these projections. And so that's been a hard thing to overcome, but yeah, I would say thank God there's good people out there that still see you for you, you know. And didn't make me feel like lacking or less than. I think that's important. And if we can go into like kind of adulthood now, is like there was this one encounter with these friends of mine I'm really close to, and shout out to them once they hear the story, they'll know. But I had been friends with both of them for like over a year at this point, and they never asked me like, "Hey, what's going on?" You know, and like in my mind, I'm like, okay, it's the elephant in the room. Like everyone and their mom, like ever since I was young, asked me the question, "Are you okay?" And I know that that comes from a place of love, but like I have a very complex feeling towards that question because it's just like on the one hand it feels invasive, on the other hand it feels like you're asking the obvious. So like I'd rather you ask it than not ask it. So it's like really complex because like if people don't ask me the question that I know they want to ask, I'm like, why are you asking it? And then if they ask me, I'm like, why did you ask that? So it's like there's no winning on that situation. But these friends, like they never asked me, and like it made me feel like, oh, like that part of me is not really important. Like that they don't even want to know. Like, and I remember one time we went to go eat Thai food, and we were talking about life or something, and I brought it up naturally. I was like, hey, like yeah, this thing, and I remember I asked them like, how come you guys never asked me? And then they're like, oh, like we knew that when you felt ready, you would say something. So we didn't really feel the need. And that was like, I felt like that was like a life-changing thing to hear, because I felt like it's something I needed that I never knew I needed. Like, the emotional intelligence of that kind of response and like approach was so nice, because at that point I'm like 20, like in my mid-20s, and so for 25 years, like that was like one of the first times someone did that, and I was like, whoa, like that's so nice, because if you can just imagine every single day, whether I'm out, like wherever, someone's thinking it or someone's asking it, you know, and I've come to terms with it now, where it's like, people are just curious. And so I'm trying to, you know, it's a daily struggle, but like not take it as an offense, but just as a question, like a normal question, like what colors, what's your favorite color? Like that kind of question. But, you know, every day it's like, everyone has their good days and bad days. So on the good days, I'm like very like aware, but like on the bad days, it's like tough, especially like when you mix in like dating on top of that too. It's like, damn, like I feel like on one hand I have to overcompensate with my personality, and maybe that's why I'm so loud, or like, you know, I'm so vibrant, and like even in the way I dress, like I like colors, I like loud, because I feel like there's this expectation of like me shrouding, like, or like being like very like made small, you know, and like what I was told when I was younger is like, you don't want to stick out even more, because you already stick out with your disability. Like let's try to like tame that in. Like that's what my parents would say. But I'm like, no, like I want to stick out. Like I want my clothes to express myself, and you know, like, I want to do all these things. Like I shouldn't have to make myself feel small for other people to feel comfortable. You know, I feel like that's kind of like wrong. And so like, I don't know. So in like a dating sense, I feel like I'm not being me, but I feel like my personality is doing a lot of the work, so that people can see how awesome I am in that kind of context. And so I saw a TikTok the other day where it was like, your brain works like 24/7 from the day you're born. And the only time it doesn't work is when you have a crush on somebody. And I'm like, that's so true. Because somehow, some way...
I think you're going to say when you're asleep.
No, somehow, some way, when you like someone, your brain shuts off. You're like, what am I doing now? Like, what is this? And so, like, imagine that kind of, like, thinking that you go through just, like, as a regular person who's trying to date. And then on top of that, I'm like...
You're okay, calculating,
like, okay, like, are they noticing the leg thing? Like, are they uncomfortable? Like, I always feel like I have to, like make other people feel, like, comfortable. So it's kind of like I'm the butt of the joke, because before they even mention it, I'm already mentioning it for them, so that, like, it's not weird. Because I feel like some people find it, like, uncomfortable to bring it up, because they don't want to, like, like, hurt my feelings or whatever. But I don't know. I feel like there's a certain way to bring it up where it's not offensive, but it's also, like, you know, and I haven't found that sweet spot in a lot of people, but I know people are trying. But, so that makes that part of it complicated. Which, you know, like, I think I'm picky for a lot of different reasons, but I think that's one of them, to, like, you know, because I feel like not a lot of people can handle that, because not a lot of people have been exposed to that kind of, like, individual, because, you know, everyone's surrounded by, quote unquote, I'm going to just call people in this episode normies, and it's like, if you've been exposed to that your whole life, and then you walk up and you see someone that's not, you're like, whoa, like, you know, it takes an adjustment period. And unfortunately with dating or whatever, like, you don't get that luxury of time. So it's like, it's just like, someone just has to be emotionally, you know, up there with me to understand, because it's a lot to handle. That I feel like, you know, unfortunately, like, I have a lot of guilt towards too, like, now that I'm in my adulthood, and I think I mentioned this in previous episodes, but like even the idea of having a kid, like, freaks me out. And I used to be very, like, I want kids, like, no question, but now it's like, I I fear for like my imbalance, like, oh, I can't carry this kid physically or like whatever. And people tell me all the time, like, okay, like your husband, your future potential husband could carry a lot of the physical weight, but like I understand that, but also there's a lot of guilt that comes with that, right? Even with my friends, like unbeknownst to them, I have a lot of guilt when it comes to like having them help me, right? I don't know, like I can just tell you a recent experience I had where I was coming back from a trip. So I was coming back from the LAX airport, and for people who are not from LA, there's like a shuttle you have to take to go to the actual like shared ride services area, for your Ubers and Lyfts. And on the shuttle bus or any bus, there's like that priority seating for like handicapped or disabled people, right? And this shuttle bus was getting full, and I think if you just look at me, I'm just normal looking, right? Like I'm young, like I have that kind of like nothing seems wrong with me when I'm just sitting down. But as the cars were getting full, there was like elderly people like coming into the car, and there's only limited seats in the front, and so people were asking like, okay, can you move so that these older people can like take your seat?
You were sitting down, and then
I was sitting in a like a priority seating. Because I was just coming from a long day of travel, and so I want to sit down too. Yeah. But because
they just see a young girl.
Exactly. They're like, can you move? And I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, obviously I'm more able than them, so like I will move. And I think that's more like, that's right of me, right? Yeah. But there are times where like I do need the seat too. Yeah. And I feel like it's a complex situation because like when I'm traveling with friends, like I was under this impression that I have to do it all. I have to prove to them and myself that I can do it. So I would overextend myself. And now I've gotten some conditions like from my disability that like I actually need to take a lot of like the easier routes to things and ask for help. So now I feel like I have the liberty to ask. But like before I was like, no, like I can do it. Like disabled people or not, like we are the same. I can do whatever you do. I was under that mindset where like I was kind of like very hung up on that. But now that I also have these physical limitations and like conditions on top of that are an after effect of like my main disability, like in those cases I'm like, yeah, like I need to sit down too, but like it's not noticeable unless I'm standing and walking. So it's just like a weird like thing because
there's just a lot to constantly navigate. Your typical normies don't have to. In their day-to-day life.
Yeah, because I can like I don't know if this is true, but just based on expression, there was like a couple across from me that were also like in the priority seating. And it could just be my projection, but I felt like they were judging me because they were like, why is she sitting there? Right. But I'm like, in my head, I'm like, you don't know. Like, I also am like you, but I still think an older person like deserves it on for myself because I'm still somewhat capable. But I do get tired quickly, so it's like, especially on like a travel, like I can't walk as much as I used to, so I have to always Uber more or like get more rides and to get myself around. And I found cheat codes and like how to like navigate for work trips or whatever. And even my friends, I feel like there's a lot of adjustments people have to make. So like even people who travel with me, I feel kind of guilty because let's say a normie person goes with a normie person, right? They can walk 10 miles and save money that way, right? And I can also walk maybe 5 miles, but like my legs are shot, and I'll need massages every day after that. But or I can take cars, Ubers, throughout my trip to make the walk a little bit less and kind of even it out. But the thing about that is like everything's a monetary cost, right? So like anyone who travels with me will have to understand that, okay, like, it may be a little bit more expensive because I need to take cars.
Yeah.
You know, so I also feel like this obligation of like, because people are renting cars for me, like, I'll help cover the cost. You know, so I feel like I'm covering for a lot of my limitations through monetary. And you know, I just feel, I don't know, it's like a big burden to ask for people too. Yeah. So like, I'm happy to cover it, but it's just like that extra thought I have to think about too of like, you know, like, yeah, like, it's been tough, but like, God has given me these avenues where I can still enjoy life, but like, you know, the emotional impact that it caused that took 20 plus years to kind of overcome was tough, but like, made it out the other side. But yeah, there's like there's a lot of like mental gymnastics that goes into my day-to-day interactions. And yeah, I think I don't realize how exhausting it was until like I had to come to terms with it a couple times and like really kind of like understand that like, wow, like whoever comes into contact with me, it's like, it's gonna be at work. It's gonna be extra work. And so even when it comes to like my future husband, let's say, if that, like, yeah, I can cover it physically, but then it's like there's something about like, you know, carrying your kid on your own that like creates a bond. And I feel like maybe I'm just projecting early, but like all those things, I'm like, it's gonna be less than, you know, or like, yeah, my husband can cover it, but I feel bad. You know, it's just like all these things. So like, I think for a lot of my life, like I walked through it feeling bad. And I think we covered this early on in the beginning of the season of like how we met. But I remember, I don't know if we went into detail, but I remember like when we first met, like that was like a weird time in my life. I was still kind of not as self-confident in myself. And so one time we were like new roommates, right? So everyone's meeting each other for the first time. This is freshman year. And one of the first things we did was like go to the cafeteria at college. Cause you know, it's what you do when you want to bond with people. And our cafeteria was like outside of our dorm. So it was kind of a bit of a walk. Yeah. And I was so used to like walking behind people because I didn't want people to like stare at me. So like, I just would walk behind naturally because like it just gave me a couple seconds to be at peace without people having to like judge that so outwardly. And I remember like there was one evening like after that where like Lois was questioning me. She's like, "Oh, like why are you like always so chipper, number one, and also like walking behind like what's your deal, I guess." And
I said, "What's your deal?"
Not what's your deal exactly, but kind of shorthandedly, like, that's what was expressed. And yeah, I think like that was kind of interesting for me because no one ever approached me in that way. And when I was younger, like in my like high school to college days, like I was always like on like joy 24/7 joy because I felt like sadness and anger were like wasted emotions because I felt like I knew what those felt like to feel so sad and like whatever, that I didn't want other people to experience those emotions. So whatever I could do to like be positive and help people, like that was like my shtick. And so like I was always like chipper and like whatever. And I remember she said like it was like one of those late nights. It was like 2 a.m. or something. We were talking till late. Yeah. And one of the questions she, like Lois asked was like, "You know, you don't have to be happy all the time." And I was like, "Whoa." Yeah. And it was just like weird to come to terms with that, like head on, like someone just talking about that and like saying like, "Oh, like you don't have to like walk behind people," like something like that. And I was just like, it was like really nice at that time because I felt like it was like my armor, right? Like I had built these defense mechanisms for so many years that I was just used to doing things. Yeah. And so when you brought it up like out of the blue at a random night, like at 2 a.m. And then we also talked about going on top of that. I was like, whoa. And I think for me, like, that was like a turning point in our friendship as new friends too, of like, oh dang, like, she saw right through my like my mask or whatever. I felt like vulnerable, because I felt like you and our other mutual friend were like two tentpoles in my like life at that point where like you were kind of like peeling back the layers of whatever mask I was like putting up.
Yeah.
And it was kind of freeing, but it took like time to get there.
Yeah.
And obviously like that was like one pillar like that has built a strong foundation in our friendship for me. And yeah, every time now in my adulthood when I meet new people, like there are certain people that I just know and I will just click with, like, oh, they're this kind of person that like will accept me for who I am, or like they don't judge, like I really gravitate towards those people, and it's like very natural where I'm like, oh yeah, like at this point in our life we're grown, right? And like being grown, there's like emotional maturity that comes with that, and navigating things, like treading things lightly, and so I respect it when like I see it in people, but also I am very empathetic towards people who just don't know. Yeah. And they're just asking, like, because they don't know how else to phrase it. So, like, I also have grace towards those people, too, because I know it's not out of malicious intent. Yeah. Sometimes it is. But I'm still trying to navigate the difference between when it's malicious and when it's not. And when it's just really, like, out of curiosity because they don't know. Yeah. But yeah, I think what's hard for me now in my adulthood is like having to come to terms with the fact that like this is something that I'll live with forever, and the questions, the thoughts, they will never stop. Yeah. And there's nothing I can do about it. I think that's the hard part. Like there's nothing I can do. Yeah. Because people are gonna think what they want to think. People are gonna do what they want to do, and like control. I have to let that go. Yeah. And you know what's so funny? So when I used to go to therapy, my therapist was like, oh, you like to control, like you're kind of like type A. And I was like, what? Because I'm very P in my personality. Like I don't like planning. I'm very like go with the flow. So I'm like, what do you mean I like to control things? It doesn't make any sense. And I think there could be two truths. Like I think in my day-to-day life, like I'm just like woo, free flowing, whatever. But I think because there's something in my life that I can't control, like there's ways that I try to control it, I guess. Yeah. It's like, trying to control what people think, trying to like delay, their thought process by doing certain actions, like how I did when I was in college, walking behind people, like I used to my gosh, even during dates, I used to like do a little white lie. Yeah. So I would like be like, they'd be like, oh, are you okay? I'm like, oh yeah, I just hurt myself. Like, buy myself a week so that they can understand who I am as a person and like maybe fall in love with that first. Yeah. So I was doing the absolute most. I'm still doing the absolute most in different but dude, like even that, I was like, wow, like the fact that I had to do that to protect myself made me feel kind of sad. Like looking back now, I'm like, dang, like how insecure did I feel that I felt like the need to do that to feel accepted by people. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I feel like we've touched on how you kind of have like people pleaser tendencies, and I feel like that's where the control piece comes from. It's that like and knowing you, like you have a tendency to get hung up on if you feel that another person thinks a certain way about you that you don't like, you lose sleep over it. Yeah, like, if you even think like you don't even know for certain that they think that, but for some reason you're like, oh shoot, I think they think that I'm this, and you're like, I don't want them to think that way about me. Yeah. Like you would lose sleep over it, and I think to prevent that from happening, you do the whole people pleasing thing of like, I want to make sure they get this out of me. They like me. They see me in a certain way. Like
I feel like this is so funny you're bringing that up because it's exactly what I brought up to like my Pilates instructor because it's like my part-time therapy center. And I was mentioning that because we're similar in personality, and I was mentioning how like I get really riled up when I feel like people are not getting the correct picture of me or who I think I am. If it's a little bit skewed, I'm like, wait, let me correct it. Let me correct the course. Yeah. And like when I can't, I feel like I'm losing balance. Yeah. I'm like, no, like this is like I don't want people to walk around with this incorrect version of who they think I am. Yeah. And so like when I can't control that, I'm like, dang, they're just gonna walk around life thinking this way about me, but it's not me. Yeah. And that like I don't know, it's like a psychological thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
it really messes with me, but I'm like, I think the lesson is like letting go. And letting go is really tough.
Yeah.
So I guess in that way I am controlling of myself, I guess. Yeah. So maybe that's why I'm also a P in life, because I'm like, I need to balance it.
Yeah, because you're like, I'm already my mental gymnastics of this, not everything else.
Yeah, just like.
Oh, that makes sense.
So I feel like it's interesting because in my world, I'm considered able-bodied, right? Because there's a lot of people who have it worse than I. You know, they're physically like always going to be in a wheelchair, or like they are not vocal. They need like that extra assistance. And I remember I used to volunteer at like a physical therapy place for kids because I used to be a patient. And during high school, I wanted to get those credits, so I was like, okay, I'll be a volunteer. You know, I'll be a Korean translator. And knowing me, I can't Korean at all. So it was like very like broken. But this mom, I remember this day, this mom and her daughter came in, and she had the same condition as me, and she had braces on her legs. And in physical therapy, there's like certain actions you do to get tested. So she was walking up down the stairs, like you had to walk back and forth in a line and like get things checked. And I remember when she was doing her evaluation, like I was sitting with her mom, and she was saying to me like, if my daughter gets anywhere near to how you walk, I'll be happy with that. And I was like, whoa, because I wasn't even happy with where I was at, like because I wasn't quote unquote 100%. And I was like, whoa, like I'm like a pillar for someone else's family to be, like, you know. And that was really interesting for me because it's like in that physical therapy place, you see people with all different kinds of disabilities, and like it's weird to see like how immobile and unable people are of different conditions and how they're navigating through it, because you know there's like a assisted school within that physical therapy place where, you know, people can come to play, assisted of course, but they're actually playing while they're getting checked. So it's like these little things. And I even catch myself like out in public now, like when I see somebody who, you know, has a little bit of a limp, I'm like, oh, okay, like, yeah, like I can even like catch it right away. And like even when I'm looking at someone from behind and I see that, I'm also thinking like, oh, I hope they're okay, you know. And so even I catch myself saying those questions in my head that like I can't fault people for asking me that, but it's something different when it's yourself, you know. Like logically, I understand why people are asking me that because, you know, they may feel bad and it's just a natural question. But when it's like your own thing, it's like your baby. You're like you're a little bit more sensitive towards it. And I think everyone in life has like a different trigger point. And I think under the wrong mindset, that could be a trigger point for me. Like, so it's like a very like touchy area for me that I just want to like be even more advanced than I am now. I feel like I've grown a lot where like it's affected me less, but I want to be at a place where it's like 100%, you know, it's just like whether sticks and stones are thrown, I'm like whatever. But right now it's like if sticks and stones are thrown, I'm like, ooh, you know, a bit. But before I'd be like bawling.
So I was gonna ask you, like, and it's okay if like you're still, and it sounds like you're still navigating it and like growing into it, but I wanted to ask if there was a certain, maybe not moment, but when do you recall you started to feel the transition of feeling less ashamed or feeling less like feeling more proud and more confident in like who you were and like in addressing your disability and things like that? Like where do you feel like, if there was a shift? Because I feel like there was, but
I feel like that's an interesting question. And I think very good question, but I think the shift happened for me like when I started to exceed people's expectations. So one of my expectations that my parents and my family had of me of like, will she be able to succeed in life? Because that was their worry. Like, when they're not there, will she be okay?
Yeah.
And somehow, some way, honestly, I feel like God just led me down a path in career where I felt very firm. And so once I started navigating the career choices and career advancements, I was starting to think like, oh yeah, like, I'm good at my job, but also like I know your job isn't supposed to be like your everything, but it gave me like a foundation of like strength of like, yeah, people cannot walk all over me because I've found a path where like I'm good at something and no one can take that away from me, right? Because even when I was going into college, like my sister, she went to UC Berkeley, right? And I went to UC Riverside, and I remember like, Riverside versus Berkeley, it's a little bit less, and so I always felt like I was competing with my sister because I was like, okay, like, I have to be up to her level or better for my parents to feel at ease. And so whatever I did in my life, it was to prove them wrong and myself that like, yes, I can do this, and like, I can still succeed at life. Like don't give up on me, kind of thing. And so I remember like when I was waitlisted at a different school and I didn't get there or go there for different reasons. And I went to Riverside. I was like, okay, well, because I also went to a very competitive high school where you had to be tested to get in. And so there was these tentacles in my life where I'm like, okay, like I did this, passed it, exceeded people's expectations of what my limitations would be. Like, it kept exceeding different pillars where I was like, okay, like I'm doing it. And then even when I graduated college, I was like, okay, like I don't know where I'm gonna be, but like this is the path I chose. Like, let's just go for it. And my personality is very like risk taker, especially in career. So I was just going for things, and like little by little, as like those capabilities were being revealed, and like God was kind of healing like you were meant for more. Like, because I never believed in that for a long time. And then I always believed like, okay, like my limitation is my ceiling. And then once I started to like dream for more, and those dreams were coming into my reality, I'm like, oh, like despite all the hardships that I've gone through, like God had a plan all the time, this whole time, because nothing I could have imagined like would have been anywhere near what God had planned for me in my life and where I am today. And so as I've made these advancements and my parents started to like back off a little bit, and like I could see in their face like they're at peace too, it kind of like settled me too, where I'm like, okay, I handled that aspect of my life. Now I just need to handle like the inner workings of my own like insecurities that have built up from childhood. So I like went through therapy. Like I like after college, like I grew up atheist, but after college, and Lewis in my county, like I started going to church. I started like doing these things for me, and being surrounded by a loving community at my church. Like, thank God. Like, I think a lot of it isn't just like my own. It was like really like God just introducing me to people and like exposing me to different things throughout my life that like started to heal that like you are not enough like mindset. I'm like, because I'm like surrounded by people who like tell me like great things, like like wow, Irene, you have energy for two people, and like that for me is a good thing too, because like as a disabled person, you would think like, oh, like she can't do X, she can't do Y. But the fact that I have energy for more than two people, because I'm just I'm buzzing, like I'm kind of like, yeah, I can stick it out, because like I have my quote unquote normie friends who are like, it's 10 p.m. and they're exhausted. I'm like, no, I'm still going, and I'm like, see, like my physical limitations doesn't limit me at all. Like I think a future thing I want to do is a TED talk in the future of like like kind of dismantling people's thoughts of what a disabled person can do. That's been my whole like life mission of like proving people wrong of like what they think that we can do. Like we can do what you think and more. And I hope my life is a testament to that. Like if like, you know, I die in the future and there's a book written about me, I hope it's about that. Like never judge a book by its cover, because look at what, you know, she did. Similar to like Helen Keller, right? She was blind, but she did so much, and she also won prizes for her brilliance, but like, you know, she didn't give up on herself, and like that's kind of like what I want to do. Where I just don't give up on myself and keep going, right? And so I think in a lot of those aspects, like I've healed a lot of that. But relationship is like a different sector.
I mean, that's just as a typical human being. Like it's still hard to navigate,
whether you have this or not. It's difficult. Yeah, so it's been like a fun journey of like me kind of coming out of my cocoon and like learning to love myself in different ways, you know. Because yeah, it used to be very dark.
Yeah.
I used to like not want to be here, which is crazy. And yeah, I think for those who believe, like honestly, I feel like God's plans were greater, and like I'm glad that I made it here this far. And anything I do from here on out is, you know, for that younger me that was in self-doubt, like sad, like feeling not worthy, like all those things. Like I would go through all those things again if it meant I would be here, you know. But yeah, I just hope like my story is like an encouragement to people, you know, whatever you're going through, like, you know, to not give in and just to keep pushing and be surrounded by people, loved ones, and like make sure to like, I think venting is also important, like, you know, letting it out and doing what you need to do to make sure you're in a good headspace. And like even though like my parents' concerns like were warranted, it did cause pain, but like without their support, I wouldn't be here either. And like shout out to my sister too, because when I was going through a hard time, like early COVID, like 2019, she was the one that was like, hey, like I can help you, like let me like get you some therapy sessions, because I had talked about like wanting to go to therapy, but I felt like I wasn't a normal case that needed it. So I was like, oh, I don't need it, you know? And I kept pushing it off. And yeah, I think like her support in that like changed me. And yeah, I'll forever be indebted to her for like giving me that. Because that also helped. And also like the friends I've made along the way that like have been with me for like 10 years or even less, like I don't know, every good friend I've had in my life, like they really changed me for the better. Shout out to the For Good, the song. For anyone who knows what gets coming out soon. We're big fans. But yeah, so yeah, it's been quite a wavy journey, but it's been an interesting one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just like off the bat want to validate a couple of things that you said. Like the first thing being how you felt like you exceeded people's expectations, especially your parents, and felt at peace with that. It's like I felt like I've been a witness to that myself. Like me seeing you like move up and your career and like boss girl it, girl boss it so hard, like working for Google and TikTok and like, you know, just like AT&T, like all the big, you know, like companies and like getting promotions and all that. For me, it's just been like such a like joy to experience as a friend and witness that, and just being like, dude, like, and I like that's like the stuff I wanted you to share, and like especially on this pod too, of like I want people to see that too, because like I don't want people to just see this like happy-go-lucky like bubbly girl or the girl with the disability, right? I want to see like all the other things. Like I want other people to see all the other things that you've achieved. But also like touch on like the friends that you talked about, like that's something I see too so like strongly that I feel like is so special to you. Is like you're known for your birthdays every year. Like we gather and I'm like, oh, I know you because of Irene's birthday. I see you every other year, like kind of thing. But it's like I think what's so special is that I see a common theme and thread amongst these girls that are surrounding you, and boys too. That everyone's so kind, and everyone is so sweet, and just like, and when you said like, oh, like I just know if I'm gonna vibe with someone or not, I see that too with the people that you surrounded yourself with, and I'm like so grateful for that because I think I felt like protective of you for a while, maybe in college, of like, oh shoot, like not everyone's gonna, you know, but then like I started to not worry, you know, seeing like, oh, Irene has so many good friends. She's good. Like, you know, so I feel like a sense of gratitude for that too and feel proud of you for like surrounding yourself with people that are good in your life. But yeah, those are like my little, you know.
And thank you for being a part of my my life and also like being a part of this story. She's part of my testimony for a reason. But before we close off, I do want to mention because you're also a sped teacher, and what's cool is coming soon. There's going to be a show called Out of Mind on Disney Plus, which is about a girl with autism and like a disability.
No, I think she has cerebral palsy.
And cerebral palsy, autism and cerebral palsy, or something like that. And I was like screaming at Lewis, because like that kind of storyline, I can't even imagine, right? And I feel like we're becoming more progressive in that way, where like someone with a disability is the lead cast. I don't know if she actually does, but like at least in the story, she's a lead cast. So like, what are your thoughts? Hearing from my story and hearing, you know, they're making shows about people of disability and also you being a teacher in that space. Like, what are your thoughts in general
on disability and representation? Oh, that's such a great question. But I think, I mean, I would hope to see more representation in the media, and it's hard for me to say as a neurotypical able-bodied person. But I think, if anything, what I wish for the general public is just more education. And I guess to touch on why representation is important, because an accurate representation is important, because I think education and awareness is so important. Because I think a lot of people always say to me like, "You're so patient. Like, how do you do your job?"
I've said that too.
You know, and I think, I don't like to say this, but I do think it takes a level of patience, and I do think it takes a level of empathy, and kind of like, it takes a certain type of person, I guess, to work in this field. But at the end of the day, it comes down to like education and like awareness. People are like, "You're so patient." I'm like, no, I'm not patient. I just know I can sit through this tantrum because he has autism and because he's triggered by XYZ, or like he's acting this way because XYZ. Like, I'm able to sit through these things and like deal with certain behaviors because I know why it's happening, or can hypothesize why it's happening. And so I think that's just what I wish the public would know a little bit more. And I just, wish for more accurate representation, because I think for so long, disability representation in the media has been very stereotypical and very like...
In what way?
In a box. Like, I think everyone still to this day, when they think of a person with autism, they're like, oh, like Rain Man, right? Like, he's the genius. Like, they think of someone in the media who's like, you know, like the genius, like super good at math, but also like can't speak and can't socialize. But it's like, that's really one person. And there's like a saying that says like, if you met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. Like, I'm glad that people are like, oh, like in that movie, right? But it's like, okay, but that's literally just that person.
And it's like glamorized.
Yeah. And I just feel like people don't understand that it's a spectrum. And same goes for your disability, right? Like any disability, there's a spectrum. And I think it's important for people to ask questions and for people to be curious, and which is why I'm glad you brought up it's hard to always answer the questions, and it shouldn't be your job to constantly do the work for other people. But I still implore people to be curious. I still implore people to try to learn, right? And ask the hard questions, because how else are you gonna figure it out, right? So that's my little spiel. I can go on and on and on, but
what inspired you to get into the field where you have to be very specialized? Because coming from someone with a normal background, what was the pull?
I think so it's funny, I don't know, there was a sermon today, but I'll try to concise it. But I think for me, I've always felt a draw to the community, to the disability community, and I actually didn't know why for a long time. And I still feel kind of like it's a very special kind of just calling thing, whatever you want to call it. But I think if anything from my life experience that does play impact is when I was in elementary school. I moved from Cerritos, which was primarily Asian American community, to Brea. At the time was predominantly a white community, and I was maybe one of two Asians in my class. And that was a big jump for me, being a fourth grader going to a community where I was whoa. That's when I realized I was a minority and realized I was other. And I felt very small and I felt very ostracized. Not that people were being mean to me, but I just noticed that I was so different. And then I had a Mean Girls moment where I ate lunch in the bathroom.
Oh.
I know. And then I moved on from that and kind of eventually made friends, but I still struggled for a while to make friends and get comfortable in my own skin. But I always think back on that moment of how other I felt and how different I felt, and how it was because of something I couldn't control, which was how I looked on the outside, my genetics, my ethnicity, right? And so although I don't have a disability, I have an experience where I felt less than and where I felt different and where I felt small because of something I couldn't control, something that I was born with, aka my looks. And so I always fall back on that a little bit of a moment of empathy that I have. But yeah, I mean, long story short, that's kind of eventually that got channeled into serving the disability community and stuff like that. So
how did you like your experience doing Best Buddies? And for people who don't know, Best Buddies a chapter at colleges that helps people with various disabilities.
Yeah.
It's a social club.
Yeah, so that was a big learning curve and experience as well. So because I felt drawn to this community, I didn't know how to help or be involved until I discovered a club called Best Buddies. And I learned a lot through that because through that experience, I actually got to work a lot with adults with disabilities, which is a completely different, I feel just learning curve of interactions, relationship, and things like that at that scale. But yeah, I think just learning about job inclusion, what relationships look like for adults with disability, and what life looks like for an adult who's looking for a job, who's just trying to have fulfilling relationships with other people.
Yeah. Shout out to Live on the Spectrum.
Yeah, there's a lot of good representation, I feel these days, that show and other things. So yeah, I think I learned a lot through that, and then eventually landed in the classroom where I'm learning every single day what it means to serve this population and be a good advocate for this population. So yeah, that's kind of my life, my role.
Last question for you. What are some misconceptions that you had that you going through these experiences and being my friend that you also kind of learned?
Yeah, there's so much. I think professionally and calling wise, growing up, or as I started going in this direction and feeling this was my quote unquote calling, I had a very naive approach of I want to be a voice to the voiceless. I want to be a hand to the helpless. And I was like, wow, that's such a horrible savior mentality mindset to have.
Coming from a good place.
Yeah, coming from a good place, but yeah, the more I met more disabled people, I was like, oh shit, you know, like these people have a voice. Like we're the ones silencing them. And for me to say I want to be a voice for the voiceless was so like yeah, just a superiority complex and just like a savior mindset that I think was very wrong to have. And just learning that like, no, these people have something to say. It's a matter of listening to them. It's a matter of meeting them where they're at and learning how to be an ally and an advocate. But also like knowing that again, disability is a spectrum and the experience is such a spectrum and like seeing your experience and like, you know, there are people who live with a disability who are like, I want to be seen more than my disability. And I think that's all power to you. That's how you want to live and that's how you want to like prove other people wrong. Like go for it. And then there are other people who are like, my disability is my superpower. Like I want people to see my disability. Like this is what makes me who I am. That's amazing too. And some people live with a mix of both, right? And live with the tension of both, and that's fine. But I think that's what I learned a lot through like my friendship with you and seeing your like you navigating your life in that way.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
that is very unique to the person.
It really is unique to the person. I don't think it's our job to tell a person with a disability how to approach, how they view their disability and what their life experience should look like. So yeah, I think that's my, you know.
I mean, did we talk about the perks though? Like, okay, so
hello, ADA.
Priority seating at concerts, which we've experienced. Disneyland, you know, you can cut the line. So being a friend of a disabled person, there are some perks. Let me get that straight. Oh, also the handicap placard, which I don't even have. You can park anywhere. You don't even have to pay for that. For the meters, but obviously. But I still haven't done that. But there are some perks you find along the way. You know, you gotta make light of it.
Yeah. I guess I want to close though by asking you one final question, which is, what's a message you would have for your younger self, or what's something you wish you could tell your younger self now that you're in your 30s, thriving?
Yeah. I would say there's more to life than this, than what you're experiencing right now. And as cliche as it sounds, there is a light, you know, at the end of that tunnel of darkness. And like, as cliche as it also sounds, like, don't give up. Because I feel like when, you know, you're in a dark spot, all you see are dark clouds. And what you see, like, around you, and you think that's the ceiling. And even with all this, you know, complex emotions, it's been interesting to navigate because I've had extreme lows and extreme highs. And I actually wouldn't trade it. Like, for the longest time, I was like, and I think I told you this too, and other friends, I was like, I just want to live a normie day for one day, just to know what it's like and like to be at peace. And that's what I used to always say. But now in my life, I'm like, no, I kind of like this, you know, with all the added perks that come along with it. And I kind of equate it to like, everyone has something, and this is just my thing. And you know, God just gave it to me for some reason, and I'm learning to navigate it on a daily basis. But I think that's it. Like, trying not to like think too deeply into it for too long, but to just keep swimming, I guess.
All right. Well, we'll cheers on that note with our Kimino sparklings. Yeah, thank you for sharing today, Irene, and thank you everybody for listening. And until the next one.
Bye.
Bye.